General Hospital will reveal James Patrick Stuart has officially departed General Hospital, marking the dramatic conclusion of Valentine Cassidy's long and tumultuous journey on the show. With his exit, Stuart is shifting his focus to other personal projects, leaving behind a significant void in the soap's intricate storyline. Valentine, once a charismatic yet dangerously unpredictable figure, has met a tragic end, bringing his chapter in General Hospital to a definitive close. His departure is not just the farewell of a complex villain but also a major turning point for the characters around him, especially his beloved daughter, Charlotte Cassidy, whose life will never be the same again. For years, Valentine has walked the fine line between redemption and destruction, winning over fans with his undeniable charm while simultaneously solidifying himself as one of the most formidable and ruthless figures in Port Charles. His calculated schemes, turbulent relationships, and desperate attempts to protect Charlotte at all costs have made him an unforgettable presence on the show. However, his past sins eventually caught up with him, leading him to a fate he could no longer escape. As Valentine remained on the run with Charlotte, the walls began closing in. The World Security Bureau, WSB, relentlessly pursued him, determined to ensure his demise. Meanwhile, Jason Morgan and Anna Devane had tracked him to Buenos Aires, intent on bringing Charlotte home and ending Valentine's reign of deception. Unbeknownst to him, the WSB had also pinpointed his location, setting the stage for a deadly showdown. With enemies closing in from all sides, one question loomed over Valentine's fate: could he possibly escape once more, or was this truly the end? His ultimate downfall was set in motion by his own actions. Over the years, he had amassed a long list of enemies, from Sonny Corinthos and Jason Morgan to the WSB itself. He orchestrated dangerous deals with pikemen, attempted assassinations, and even manipulated the truth to frame Anna for his crimes. Despite all of his cunning and survival instincts, Valentine had finally backed himself into a corner with no way out. As the tension reached its peak, Jason and Anna found Charlotte first, just moments before the WSB descended upon Valentine. The confrontation was inevitable. Trapped, outnumbered, and with nowhere left to run, he made a final stand. But in the chaos that followed, gunfire erupted, and in an instant, Valentine fell. Charlotte's anguished cries echoed through the scene as she watched her father's lifeless body collapse before her eyes. The man she had idolized and trusted was gone forever. Valentine's death is more than just a plot twist, it is the end of an era. For fans, this marks the official departure of James Patrick Stuart from General Hospital, a farewell to a character that has captivated audiences for years. Stuart's portrayal of Valentine Cassidy brought a unique depth to the role, blending charm, danger, and vulnerability in a way that made the character unforgettable. His exit leaves a noticeable gap in the show's dynamic, but it also paves the way for new storylines to unfold, particularly in how Charlotte will cope with the loss of her father. Stuart has expressed his gratitude to the fans who have supported him throughout his journey on General Hospital. While his time on the show has come to an end, his departure does not mark the end of his career, rather, it is the beginning of new creative ventures. Whether in film, television, or other artistic endeavors, his talent and presence will surely continue to shine beyond Port Charles. As General Hospital moves forward without Valentine, the question remains: what will become of Charlotte now that her father is gone? How will his death impact those he has left behind? And, as is always the case in the world of soaps, is this truly the last we've seen of Valentine Cassidy? While his demise appears final, the unpredictable nature of General Hospital leaves the door open for unexpected twists in the future. But for now, this is the tragic end of Valentine Cassidy and the official farewell of James Patrick Stuart. Throughout his time on the run, Valentine Cassidy had exhausted every possible avenue to evade the relentless pursuit of those who wanted him dead. However, no amount of cunning, deception, or escape tactics could erase the long list of crimes that had sealed his fate. Every decision he had made, every ruthless act he had committed, had pushed him further into a corner with no way out. He was no longer just a fugitive, he was a man marked for death, hunted by powerful enemies who would stop at nothing to see him eliminated. Valentine's downfall was of his own making. His deep involvement with pikemen, a dangerous and covert arms smuggling organization, had made him a major player in the criminal underworld, but also a prime target. His attempt to assassinate Sonny Corinthos, Jason Morgan, and Selena Wu had placed him at odds with some of the most powerful figures in Port Charles. More than that, his willingness to kill without hesitation had left a bloody trail behind him. He had murdered Olivia Jerome in cold blood, showing no remorse, and his interference with Sonny's medication supply had nearly led to catastrophic consequences. Yet, among all his sins, one of his most damning betrayals was his calculated attempt to frame Anna Devane. Once his closest ally, Anna had trusted him despite their turbulent past. But Valentine had taken advantage of that trust, manipulating evidence and orchestrating events to make it appear as though she was guilty of his crimes. His deception had been meticulous, but in the end, it was also his undoing. Anna, once willing to protect him, now had no reason to shield him from the consequences of his actions. The moment Jack Brennan, his former associate turned adversary, issued a kill order against him, Valentine's fate was sealed. There was no room for negotiation, no escape plan clever enough to outmaneuver the powerful forces hunting him. The WSB had been given the green light to eliminate him on sight, and for a man like Valentine, who had spent his life calculating every move, this was a checkmate he could not avoid. With his crimes exposed, his allies either dead or unwilling to help, and his enemies closing in, Valentine found himself with nowhere left to run. The past had finally caught up to him, and no matter how many times he had escaped before, this time, there would be no second chances. Charlotte Cassadine had unwavering faith in her father. To her, Valentine had always been her protector, the one person in the world who would do anything to keep her safe. She was too young to fully grasp the magnitude of his crimes, too sheltered to understand the extent of the destruction he had left in his wake. To Charlotte, Valentine was not a fugitive, a criminal, or a man on the run, he was simply her father. He was the only constant in her life, the only person she could depend on. But that faith, so pure and unshakable, was about to be shattered in the most brutal way possible. Unbeknownst to her, their days in hiding were numbered. A single, seemingly innocent text message would seal their fate. Wanting to reach out, Charlotte had messaged her brother, Rocco, giving him just enough information to inadvertently expose their whereabouts. She had no idea that by doing so, she had set into motion a chain of events that would lead to tragedy. The moment Rocco received the message, it became a secret too heavy for him to keep. He confided in Danny Morgan, who, recognizing the urgency of the situation, urged him to tell Lulu. But Rocco, still traumatized by the last time he had shared information about Charlotte's location, an event that nearly got her killed, hesitated. Instead, the information made its way through a different channel, straight to Jason Morgan. And once Jason had a lead, there was no turning back. As soon as Jason and Anna pinpointed the location, they wasted no time preparing to intercept Valentine. But they were not the only ones with their sights set on him. WSB had also traced his movements and had already mobilized a kill squad, determined to ensure that Valentine did not leave Buenos Aires alive. Each faction had its own objective. Jason and Anna wanted to rescue Charlotte, while WSB had been given orders to eliminate Valentine. No matter their individual motives, they all shared the same goal, bringing this manhunt to an end. The walls were closing in, and for the first time, Charlotte's unwavering belief in her father would be tested in the most devastating way imaginable. She was about to witness the unfiltered truth about Valentine Cassadine, the man she loved, the man she believed in, meeting his inescapable fate. When Jason and Anna arrived in Buenos Aires, they encountered Charlotte first. The moment she saw them, panic flooded her young face. She instinctively turned to run, desperate to reach her father before they could take him away from her. But Anna was faster. She grabbed Charlotte's arm, holding her back despite the child's frantic struggling. Anna had seen too much bloodshed to let this moment spiral out of control, and she knew, this wasn't just another capture mission. This was going to end in gunfire. Charlotte screamed for her father, her voice raw with fear and desperation. But before she could break free, the air grew thick with tension as new figures emerged from the shadows. The WSB had arrived. They moved with chilling precision, their weapons already drawn, surrounding the area in a well-rehearsed maneuver meant to ensure that Valentine had no escape. There was no negotiation, no attempt at diplomacy. The order had been given, shoot to kill. Valentine stepped out from the dimly lit alleyway, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. He was outnumbered. Outgunned. And for the first time, he knew it. His grip tightened around the gun in his hand, but he wasn't the only one ready to fire. The WSB agents stood poised, fingers on their triggers, waiting for the slightest excuse. Jason, standing between them, watched with calculating intensity, ready to intervene but knowing that any wrong move could turn this standoff into a bloodbath. In that instant, time seemed to stretch impossibly thin. Valentine's gaze locked onto Charlotte's. He saw her terrified eyes pleading for him, silently begging him not to do this. But he had never been the kind of man to surrender. Not to anyone. And certainly not now. The gun in his hand rose slightly, a single defiant motion, his final act of resistance, and then, the gunfire began. In that moment, time seemed to slow to a crawl. The world around them faded into a deafening silence as Charlotte's voice cut through the heavy tension. She screamed for her father, her cries raw with desperation. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, her small hands clutching at the empty air between them. "Please, Daddy, put the gun down." But Valentine did not. He couldn't. The man who had spent a lifetime outmaneuvering his enemies, who had always managed to stay one step ahead, now stood frozen in place, surrounded, trapped. His mind raced for a way out, a last-minute escape, but there was none. Jason and Anna, standing protectively between Charlotte and the danger ahead, knew exactly what was coming. They had seen it too many times before. And then, the inevitable happened. The gunfire shattered the silence. One shot. Then another. A third rang out, echoing in the still night air. Valentine barely had time to react before the bullet struck him. His body jolted as the force of impact ripped through him, his breath hitching as warmth spread across his chest. His gaze dropped, almost in disbelief, to the deep crimson stain blooming against his shirt. He staggered backward, his fingers twitching slightly as if reaching for something, someone. His eyes found Charlotte. For the briefest of moments, everything else disappeared. The WSB agents, the smoking barrels of their guns, the cold pavement beneath him, it all faded. There was only his daughter. A single tear traced a slow path down his cheek as he tried to speak, but the words never came. His lips parted, but no sound escaped. And then, the darkness claimed him. Charlotte's scream tore through the night. She ripped herself from Anna's grasp, racing toward her father's lifeless body. Collapsing beside him, she clutched at him desperately, her small hands pressing against his blood-stained chest as if she could somehow hold him together, stop the life from leaving his body. "Daddy, please wake up. Please." But there was no answer. Valentine Cassadine, her father, her protector, the man she had always believed was invincible, was gone. Jason turned away, unable to watch the heartbreak unfolding before him. Anna, standing motionless, felt the crushing weight of the moment settle in her chest. She had fought against him, she had wanted justice, but she had never wanted this. She had never wanted Charlotte to experience this kind of pain. There was no more running. No more second chances. No miraculous escape. Valentine Cassadine was dead. And with his death, Charlotte's world was irrevocably changed. She was no longer the same girl who had trusted without question, who had believed in her father's invulnerability. The innocence she had clung to was gone, shattered in an instant. This was not just the tragic end of a father's life. It was the conclusion of an era. With Valentine's demise, James Patrick Stuart's time on General Hospital had officially come to an end. His exit marked the closing of a chapter filled with intrigue, deception, and the emotional complexities that had made Valentine such a compelling character. His death left a void not just in the show's narrative, but in the hearts of the fans who had followed his journey, torn between loathing his actions and understanding his motivations. But now, it was over. Valentine was gone. And nothing would ever be the same again. James Patrick Stuart's departure from General Hospital was not an entirely unexpected decision, yet the way Valentine Cassadine met his end has left a profound emotional impact on the audience. For years, Stuart brought to life a character who was as complex as he was captivating, a man who balanced charm and menace in equal measure. Valentine was, at times, a devoted father and a man capable of deep, genuine love. But his darker tendencies, his relentless pursuit of power, and his ruthless actions in recent storylines ultimately led him down a path of no return. His death not only marked the conclusion of his character's turbulent journey but also served as the definitive farewell to Stuart's tenure on General Hospital, closing one of the most riveting chapters in the show's history. With this departure, Stuart is shifting his focus toward new creative endeavors and opportunities outside of GH. He has expressed deep gratitude for the years he spent portraying Valentine, acknowledging the impact the role has had on both his career and his personal journey. In a heartfelt message to fans, he extended his appreciation for their unwavering support, recognizing the passionate audience that followed his character's every move, whether they loved him, hated him, or felt torn somewhere in between. His portrayal of Valentine was multidimensional, making him one of the most compelling antiheroes in General Hospital's modern era. Valentine's loss will undoubtedly leave a significant void in the storyline, particularly for Charlotte, whose life has been forever altered by the tragedy. Her journey moving forward remains uncertain, and her grief may take her down an unpredictable path. Without her father's guidance, flawed though it may have been, who will she become? Who will she turn to for support? And will the legacy of Valentine Cassadine continue to cast a shadow over Port Charles, even in death? As General Hospital moves forward, the question lingers, is Valentine's death truly the final chapter, or are there still secrets yet to be uncovered? The world of soap operas thrives on twists and unexpected resurrections, but for now, this moment stands as the end of the road for one of the show's most enigmatic characters. Only time will tell if this is truly goodbye or if echoes of Valentine's past will continue to shape the future.